I've always been into health and fitness ever since I started my first weight loss journey when I was in middle school, and this is what made me go and study nutrition and food chemistry later on. And I am very glad that I did that because it also provided me with a lot of knowledge so that I can filter out suspicious information that is being spread around on the internet. This is why today we're covering 10 health facts that I thought were true, and maybe you also think that they are true. So let's get into it. The first one has already gotten me dragged in the TikTok comment section. That is the high consumption of red meats and or processed meats. So technically this classifies as 1 and 2 on the list. Processed meats is probably clear to many people that they have been previously associated with an increased risk of colorectal cancer, and they are classified as a class 1 carcinogen. For red meats, they have been classified as a class 2A, I think, carcinogen, which means that the evidence is definitely not as strong as it is for processed meats. And when I say processed meats, I mean sausages, ham, generally smoked meats, and also lukanka would be in my culture. All of this was a very big surprise to me because in my culture, we would have red meat on the table almost every day, most of the time every day, also in the processed meat version or in the normal version, since a lot of our national dishes do contain red meat, such as moussaka, which contains ground beef, generally any type of minced meat. We also have these stuffed red peppers that also have minced meat in them, küfte, which are basically meatballs but a bit bigger. I want to clarify a few things about red meats themselves. Even the World Health Organization does not say that you have to necessarily exclude the red meat completely. We are not canceling red meat today because it is very nutrient dense food and it definitely has its benefits, which at least I consider one of the biggest ones is its very high iron content, which is especially important for women, considering that any iron from plant sources is a lot harder to absorb than the iron that is found in the red meats. The main problem is not actually the red meat itself, it's mostly the cooking process that it undergoes. We consume red meats in either a grilled or a roasted version most of the time. When you expose the meat to these types of cooking processes, the so-called heterocyclic amines and polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons are generated, which are the main toxicological issue. Air frying also comes in here as well because it's again high heat. It's not because that it's being cooked in fat or anything like that. The solution to this, in theory, would be then to use other cooking methods such as boiling or steaming, but I don't know about you, I would rather eat my steak less frequently in a grilled version or a roasted version, and if I had to consume them boiled, I would not probably be consuming them at all. So going on an animal-based diet or listening to people that tell you that this is wow, like the best thing that you can do for your body and that our ancestors were living like this and they were thriving, please do not listen to that advice because it's merely based on their opinion and there is actually no valid scientific evidence behind that. Moving on to the third thing on today's list, and that is any 0-calorie sweetener is better than consuming sugar, which is not entirely true because not all sweeteners are equal. I'm pretty sure you know that we have artificial and non-artificial sweeteners such as stevia. If you're genuinely interested in health and wellness and fitness and all of that, I am sure that you know that there's some controversy around artificial sweeteners and that has its reasons. Artificial sweeteners were first some years ago, a lot of years ago, linked to cancer in mice. That has been debunked, by the way, so no need to worry about that risk, but there are other things that are problematic. A lot of research backs the theory that excessive artificial sweetener consumption has a negative effect on the gut microbiome. When you think about it in physiological context, it makes a lot of sense because the way that artificial sweeteners are metabolized in your body is that they cannot be broken down. They enter the gut intact and then your gut bacteria can try to metabolize them. This is where these negative effects start appearing. Of course, here we're talking about excessive artificial sweetener consumption. If you're eating one protein bar with artificial sweetener in it, it's not going to make a difference. Same goes for chewing one piece of gum per day or 2 or 3 even. And if you've noticed, even on the package of gum, it's usually written that if excessive consumption is done, that might cause some gastrointestinal issues. That is because of the artificial sweetener that this chewing gum usually contains. Some artificial sweeteners have been linked in studies in mice to liver problems, which is a very important thing to consider if one is, let's say, drinking Diet Coke instead of water, because there are those types of people. A lot of people do not enjoy drinking water, so they opt for Diet Coke because it's not going to make them gain weight because it's 0 calories. If you have these other negative effects, such as gut microbiome decline and also the potential risk of having liver issues, you might consider if maybe it's not just better to, I don't know, drink one regular Coke if you like it that much and just the rest of the day drink water. I was also a person that did not enjoy drinking water, but this is definitely something that can be learned. I used to drink 1.5 liters of Nestea in middle school. Throwback to why I was overweight in middle school. With natural sweeteners, the things look a bit different, because when I made my video on sweeteners a few months ago, there was actually no negative arguments against stevia, and it seemed to be the one sweetener you might want to opt for if you generally have a high sweetened beverages consumption and if you just do not want to switch to water, I suppose. Additionally, one research paper found that artificial sweeteners also have some type of influence still on the beta cells in your pancreas that produce insulin. So this, for some people, can lead to the partial activation of the reward pathway that's linked to consuming sweet foods, and this might be why, for some people, that might lead to the dissatisfaction when you consume that type of beverage that had no actual sugar in it, which might lead overall to a sweeter diet. Again, that's not applicable to everyone. I also have a friend that lost 20 pounds by switching from normal Red Bull to sugar-free Red Bull, so there's also that, but still it's not to recommend to consume excessive amounts of artificially sweetened beverages. Moving on to the fourth thing in today's list, and that is drinking sports drinks is better than drinking water. This is something that I used to do again, but this time in high school, because again I still had not really adjusted myself completely to the taste of water, so I had just switched from the sweetened iced tea to sports drinks because I thought it was better. I was not working out when I was consuming that. What I was doing is I was having my English after school lessons. Those types of drinks are very good when you are an athlete because they contain carbs, they contain electrolytes, we're also gonna get into them in a bit, they contain sodium, a lot of things, which helps really rehydrate and replenish the stores in your body. That applies if you are excessively physically active, or if it's very hot outside, or if you're sweating a lot. If you are somebody that just enjoys drinking those types of drinks, this might over time, again if you're substituting water for it, leading to you becoming overweight, and there have even been studies on that, how people who have excessive consumption of those types of drinks are actually more inclined to be overweight or obese. The researchers here mentioned that you could be having a much higher risk of developing, tooth decay problems, caries, just because these types of drinks have a lower pH and they also contain some carbs, some sugars, which makes the entire environment in your mouth really bad. This is why it is very important just to learn to enjoy water. Or there are also these, it feels like an overpriced scam, but these water bottles that have the scent of something, I think it's called Air Up. I would never pay money for that thing, but maybe it's helpful for people to start enjoying water without actually consuming any type of sweetener or basically water substituted with anything. It's again water just with a scent. Moving on to electrolytes. I have kind of the same argument here with them because electrolytes are great if you're highly physically active, but I feel like right now they're being promoted to everyone to stay hydrated, especially by the health and wellness girlies that also at the same time do only walking and Pilates. For a 20-minute Pilates workout, you don't really need electrolytes to rehydrate. You did not even break a sweat. This is what I don't understand. If you take too much of them, it could actually increase your risk of higher blood pressure because sodium itself is an electrolyte. electrolytes. And if you're an athlete and you're undernourished with them, then taking excessive sodium might make your cramps go away, but if you don't need it, it's just going to raise your blood pressure. So I don't see why this is being promoted. Next thing, not all protein is created equal. This is something that I used to believe when I first got into tracking when I was in high school, because you would see that there's also some protein, of course, in beans, and logically you would think that this is a good source of protein for you. The same goes for a lot of different types of plant products. Proteins are made up of 20 different amino acids. 9 of them are essential for the human body. That means that our body cannot produce them itself. It needs them supplied with food. There are also a few that are semi-essential that our body can make, but not under times of stress. And the third group are the non-essential, which your body can take care of by itself. A complete protein, such as the one found in eggs or in meats in general, in fish as well, contain all 9 essential amino acids in good amounts. Plant proteins, most of the time with a few exceptions, have at least one limiting amino acid, which is basically the amino acid that is essential but is not contained in that plant protein or in very low amounts. In order to get a complete protein for your body, you need to be consuming a variety of the correct plant foods, because when you create these combinations, most of the times it's some type of whole grain with some type of legume. So let's say you want to make rice with chickpeas, or rice with beans would also go in a burrito, and then you would have a complete protein. Proteins such as the ones found in quinoa and soy are complete ones. They are the exception to this rule. I think it is important to be mindful of that, especially if you are more of a plant-based diet person, because yes, you can still get good amounts of protein on a plant-based diet. You just have to be a bit more strategic about your meals. Next misconception: probiotics will immediately fix my gut health. I've had some type of gut issues for most of my life. The biggest one that I've always had is just very low gut motility. My gastrointestinal system requires a lot of stimulation to do its main job, and this is why I thought that taking probiotics is going to fix that issue, because probiotics are good for gut health and they're going to fix my gut bacteria, and then I'm just going to have regular bowel movements. However, it doesn't work exactly like that. I'm not here to cancel anything today. I'm also not canceling probiotics, because they have substantial evidence behind them. If your problem then is the gut bacteria that is lacking or imbalanced, then they're going to help with that. However, if your main problem is gut motility, like mine was, then you should probably address first the fiber consumption. Fiber is the one nutrient that has been very scientifically backed to help with a lot of things, regulating blood sugar levels and insulin, and it's been especially investigated for its positive influence on the gut bacteria, because it cannot be broken down by the enzymes in our body. It enters the gut, and over there it stimulates the gut bacteria to grow, and especially the good ones. While it does that, these bacteria produce the so-called short-chain fatty acids, which then exert other very positive functions in our body. You're probably not getting enough fiber if you're not eating a substantial amount of fruits and vegetables and whole grains. A substantial amount of those is a lot more than you think. We have to consume, according to the recommendations, 30 grams at least per day. This is like the minimum. This is not as easy as you think if you're not being strategic about it. This is why I have the same breakfast every day, because it gives me between 10 and 13 grams of fiber, and then I know that I'm like 1/3 of the way there, and I don't have to think that much about the rest of my day. Next tip, again, we're talking about protein. I used to think that eggs were this superior protein source, and hear me out right now. I love eggs. I eat eggs every other day. They contain B vitamins, they contain some iron. However, if you eat 2 eggs, like I usually do, I do not like to eat more than 2 because I start feeling weird. That adds up to around 14 grams of protein. That is not a lot if you're trying to build some substantial muscle mass. So if I really want to hit some good amount of protein, I have to be mindful of eating something other than eggs to get that protein. And just to compare with other protein sources, chicken breast, which is the probably most favorite food of any gym bro ever, contains 31 grams of protein per 100 grams, and that is like what, more than double the amount of 2 eggs. Then we're moving on to salmon, which is great for omega-3 fatty acids. 100 grams of that contains up to 25 grams of protein. For white fish, the situation is very similar. It's a bit lower in calories and omega-3s, but again, it contains up to 20 grams of protein per 100 grams. This is an average, I think, of like most of the white fish sources, because in terms of macros, they're actually quite similar. Ground beef, here we also have a red meat source, has a bit more fat in general and saturated fat, but still around 100 grams, a bit less, of ground beef provides about 22 grams of protein. So you see how basically any other protein source that you can think of right now contains more than 2 eggs. So we have now the last 2 points here, and both of them are about bio and organic foods in general. Those are that organic foods are not going to essentially make you healthier, and they also contain some pesticides. The theory behind organic foods is that they are being grown in the most natural way possible. Also, generally the animals are being treated more ethically, which is amazing. I'm not trying to cancel anything here. This is more targeted towards the people that want to have a healthier lifestyle but have some financial difficulties and do not have the money to be spending on large quantities of organic foods. Organic foods, according to research, have been found to be similar with macronutrient content, so protein, fats, and carbs, to conventional fruits and vegetables. But in terms of micronutrients, so vitamins and minerals, they do seem to have some upsides, which is wonderful. Then you see that you're actually getting something for the money that you're spending. However, over time, with a chronic consumption of organic foods, the research was not exactly conclusive that there was some health benefit to eating only organic food sources compared to the conventional ones. The scientists also hypothesized that organic food consumption is also more correlated with making healthier choices overall, because if you're spending that amount of money on food, you're probably very health conscious and you're also doing a number of other healthy habits. But the food consumption itself was not found to have any significant benefits. Therefore, if you are somebody that does not have the money to buy only those types of foods but still wants to live a healthier lifestyle, just switching to non-organic vegetables and fruits and meat instead of ultra processed diet is still going to have great improvements. You do not have to make the most optimized choices. Last point, the pesticides content. There has been a lot of stigma around pesticides that I also completely used to believe before I got in university, because we have this misconception that all pesticides are bad and that they're very toxic. But spoiler alert, everything is treated with pesticides, even the organic foods. The difference is that they are being treated with biopesticides. Pesticides essentially are necessary. Just because something is natural does not mean necessarily that it is toxin free and that it is necessarily the best. In nature, there are a lot of things that can infest the foods. It's just how nature works. A lot of toxins that are even being used, by hitmen and all of that. I remember this case from university talking about a specific toxin that was from a plant source. I think it was from these castor beans, and then it was used from a hitman in London somewhere in the last century to unalive a Bulgarian journalist. Point is that there are a lot of toxins found in nature, and pesticides are created to protect us from those toxins. Organic pesticides or biopesticides are just not chemically synthesized, and this is why in organic produce you can also find less residues of pesticides. This is because these organic pesticides are from natural compounds that can be specific bacteria, that can be algae, so that they can be even entire organisms that help protect the plants from pests and diseases. This itself is also also very eco-friendly, let's say, because again, they're biodegradable. Not all pesticides, even the chemically synthesized ones, are out to get you and intoxicate you. There were a few pesticides that were banned, probably like 2 decades ago at least. I discussed that in a previous video of mine, that really had very negative implications on people's hormonal health, and those are probably still being used in third world countries because they are essentially cheaper. So I'm not saying that they are equally good, especially when talking about the environment. I'm just saying that this is a misconception that organic foods contain no pesticides. I hope that right now your mind has become a bit clearer about these specific topics. I think I can make probably multiple videos on this if I really go on the internet and search for things that are trendy in the health and wellness industry, because there are a lot of things that are being spread around which are without any factual backing. Thank you so much for being here with me today. I hope that you enjoyed the contents of the video. If you liked it, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. Let me know down in the comments below if you have an idea for a specific video that you would like me to make. Thank you again for watching, and I'll be seeing you in the next one.